Household debt is soaring, with even the New York Fed raising the alarm that mass defaults could be coming. In a fresh report last week, Americans' household debt rose $212 billion in the fourth quarter to a record $17.5 trillion. That is about $141,000 in debt per American household, up $2,000 on the quarter. By the way, that's up $3.5 trillion since pre-pandemic, and of course it does not include the federal debt. That one is up $10 trillion since pre-pandemic. Put them together, and the average American household has taken on $103,000 in fresh debt since COVID, made up of $27,000 in private debt and $76,000 in federal debt. Breaking it down, Americans are now carrying $12.3 trillion in mortgages, which is up $112 billion on the quarter, $1.6 trillion in car loans, another $1.6 in student loans, and a record $1.1 trillion in credit card debt, which is up $50 billion, making for a 20% annualized rate. That brings credit card debt to over $6,000 per household. It's worth mentioning credit cards cost 25% interest at the moment, meaning it is last resort debt, or at least it should be. So what's next? Brought to you by Unchained.com. Beyond the debt levels, the main concern, what has the New York Fed concerned, is the default rate. That had plunged during COVID when millions of Americans paid off debt with stimulus checks and because they stopped spending on things like vacations and restaurants since they were all closed. That gave us a low base to start from, so that default rates had been historically low. But that's now changing as Americans have long since run through the trillions they had amassed during COVID. The first debt to break is looking like car loans. That's the one the New York Fed specifically fingered, and there's 280 million of those. What happened is millions of Americans bought cars they couldn't afford during COVID, both because cars were ridiculously expensive with supply chains jammed, but also because stimulus gave them the down payment and artificially boosted their credit scores, since credit scores really like it when you pay down debt. The upshot is that tens of millions of Americans are now driving cars they should never have bought. So expect America's leafy suburbs to soon be filled with the sounds of busy repo men. Next after cars is home equity lines, borrowing against your house. Those have risen for the seventh straight quarter despite fairly savage interest rates. That is a typical pattern when homeowners are in trouble, pretty much the last stage before they stop paying the mortgage. Finally, the big one, credit cards. The Fed noted serious delinquencies rising among all age groups, with young borrowers actually passing their pre-pandemic numbers. In fact, the last time it was this high for all age groups was the 2008 crisis. I mentioned millions of Americans are in financial despair, doom spending, and not even bothering to control their spending, with incomes falling further and further behind. Now, the music is stopping, and here come the defaults. Paired with falling retail sales, debt and defaults are painting a picture of an American consumer who is falling over the edge. All that before now resurgent inflation comes for another round. Okay, we'll be watching. See you next time.